रूम फॉर एनी मोर डेवलपमेंट, जैसे कि स्विट्जरलैंड ऐसे कंट्रीज में सेविंग्स ही चलता है, वैसे तो कुछ और नहीं कर सकते हैं वो लोग, राइट। नेक्स्ट, हाउस होल्ड सेक्टर का कैसा है? व्हाट अबाउट द हाउस होल्ड सेक्टर? You tell me, what happens to savings and investments, right, when you have inflation? Short term, long term, दोनों देखना है, right? What happens to savings in the short term? Short term savings.
Short term savings will increase.
Short term it will increase, right? In long term, the savings will be diverted to physical assets, gold or immovable assets, land. Short term and long term. What about investments? Short term mein it will pick up the investments. Why? Inflation will act as a sign to increase production. Longer term mein, the moment the industry senses that okay, there is going to be a crackdown on inflation, they are going to cut down their investments. So basically it's the question of short term and long term, right? It's the question of short term and long term. If they ask you a question, how are you going to answer? Will you answer it for short term or long term? Long term का आंसर करो. क्यों? Why? Inflation is always seen in a negative sense, right? तो negative aspects of inflation are only visible in the longer run. तो आपका आंसर longer run में ही होना चाहिए, not in the shorter run. Okay? So if they give you a question like inflation always comes with growth, सही है क्या? Inflation always comes with growth. एक बताओ, एक एग्जाम्पल बताओ जहां पे inflation and growth have not come together. नहीं होता है. Stagflation में तो stagnation होता है.
Inflation is there, growth is not.
Only if there is inflation, there can be growth. Why? Why? See, only if the prices are rising even by a small margin, no? Only then it gives the sign to the producer to produce more. Only if the production is increasing can there be increase in GDP. Isn't it? Without that it is impossible.
Inflation can happen without GDP growth.
हाँ, obviously. वो तो हमारा केस है ही, stagflation है, isn't it? So always what growth चाहिए तो there has to be inflation. The only problem is the inflation should not breach those comfortable levels, right? Breach किया तो problems है, right? Only if it breaches then it becomes a problem. Otherwise no.
So then what's the answer for your statement?
सही है. Without inflation, there is no growth possible. Impossible है.
But you said inflation always comes with the growth. So how can we say always you are saying?
Always. अब भी बोल रहा हूँ always ही है. Okay, you are saying, oh, you are going into the type of inflation, right? It doesn't matter, no. It doesn't matter. Which inflation? It is not asking. What is it saying?
Inflation.
Inflation बोल रहा है कि नहीं? If they mention demand pull inflation or cost push inflation, right? Then it is going to be problematic. But I am saying inflation बोल रहा हूँ. It's a generalistic term, isn't it? And in fact, even if it is cost push inflation, now, isn't it? There will be growth. Even if there is cost pushed inflation, there will be growth. क्यों? Taxes increase होगा तो prices increase होगा तो inflation है. तो it will be added to the growth itself. GDP को add करेगा उसको भी.
Short term kind of thing, like can you
See, what I am saying is whether it comes with growth or not, it comes with growth. The moment you start thinking about what is asked, beyond what has been asked, तो problem होगा ही. Isn't it? This problem is always there. Easy question है. See, you already have read growth is always coupled with inflation. You already have read it, है ना?
Where we get confused means the always you said, right? Both,
And remember, sometimes always is also true. Always statements are also true sometimes. Sometimes, right? You have to be cautious. It doesn't mean you always have to be negatory, है ना? So some people have this inclination. Always दिखते ही ये नहीं होगा.
most of the
Isn't it?
goes wrong.
Most of the time. Do not make it a, it becomes a chronic thing, right? None आया तो सही नहीं है. Always आया तो सही नहीं है. Do not make it a practice. There are some exceptions, right? There are some exceptions. Okay. Next, household sector. The savings of the household sector have declined. Savings sector में maximum, savings में maximum comes from the household sector itself. You get maximum from household sector itself. But the share of household sector in savings has declined. See, these are all data points. क्या है, ऐसा statements बीच में दे देते हैं. They just give these statements, right? Share of household sector in savings, in total savings, has declined. Earlier it used to be 68%. Right, 2011-12 में 68% of total savings used to come from household sector. Now it is just 59%. Right? उसका savings भी क्या हुआ है? They have moved away from physical assets, physical savings towards financial savings. Right? The movement is away from what? Physical savings towards financial savings. What does this mean? Gold, land, ऐसे में डालने के बजाय they are going into what? Shares. Financial assets, basically FD, RD, ऐसे assets पे, financial assets पे गया है. Right. Since 2016-17, financial savings is also about what? Holding money, holding cash, right? That has declined.
Because of demonetization.
Because of demonetization.
But the cash in circulation has actually increased, no?
It has increased, true. Economy also has expanded, right? Isn't it? You should have sufficient amount of money as the economy expands, isn't it? Every year the RBI circulates more money into the economy. Now tell me, what is the basis on which RBI prints money?
Inflation rate.
हर साल प्रिंट करता है ना?
No.
हर साल प्रिंट करता है. Every year it prints, right? How much does it print? The question is, how much does it print? Is there a restriction on it?
Yes.
How much? जितना गोल्ड है उसके हिसाब से है क्या?
Gold and foreign assets, I mean foreign currencies.
The thing is, we used to have this system where RBI के पास कितना assets हैं, उसके equivalent होना है liabilities. Currency, printing currency and issuing new currency is a liability, right? ये दोनों balance होना चाहिए, right? That used to be the case. Now, and also the base used to be, the currency which the currency assets which the RBI had, securities it had, gold it has, ये सब backing था, right? उसके equivalently it was supposed to print the currency, not beyond that point. Now, what has happened is there is no such restriction at all. RBI can print how much ever it wants based on the needs of the economy. Economy में need कितना है उसके basis पे print करेगा, right? And this need is usually less than what its total liabilities, right? So, what is it based on? It is not linked to anything now. It's only, what is it about? Based on the needs of the economy. Earlier there was a restriction. Now you don't have such restriction.
It's the same thing for all the countries of the world.
Most of the countries. In fact, all the countries you can say. जो countries में ये जो है दूसरा systems होगा वो कभी बताते नहीं हैं, right? So China never accepts that they have manipulated exchange rate. They never accept. They still say market determined है, right? So if you have such systems, they would never accept. So basically, it's not based on anything else except the requirements of the economy, right? And it always sees to it that it is well managed. Asset and liability side जो है, it is well managed all the time. Okay?
So, but now the government was asking extra money from RBI. So then how?
Print करके तो नहीं देगा. कहाँ से पैसा पूछा है?
Saving money from the
Ah.
they are asking. Again the asset will be reduced, right? Then RBI.
Asset will not be reduced.
Reserves will be reduced.
Reserves will be reduced, right? So it is a part of assets, true, right? ये बोल रहा है कि तुम्हारे पास assets ज़्यादा है, right? Liability कम है, right? So manage these two. जितना चाहिए liability कितना है उसके हिसाब से रखो. Why are you keeping more assets? दे दो हमें, right? So this was the case. That is why you have committee. कौन सा committee है? विमल जलान कमेटी. हाँ? Capital framework. Committee on capital framework. Right. Next, public saving. Why is it so difficult to remember these things?
So many committees.
So many committees. Polity has so many committees, I guess.
All we have to study now.
All we also have to study ना. मतलब मुझे कुछ याद नहीं है, फिर भी दे दिया तो आंसर कर लेंगे. Somehow. You also can do it. You also can do it. You have been doing it for a long time now, right? When in doubt, what? Throw a dice. Right? The problem is, probability does not work in this examination. Maths is never in favor of this examination, basically. Right? दो ऑप्शन है, right? दो ऑप्शन चुन के ना, ये नहीं है, ऐसा करके you choose one option, पक्का वही wrong होगा. Right? But give it a thought, right? Give it a thought. Somehow you link it to your basics. I think you will get it right. Seriously, here you have to take one step back, or you have to take one step ahead. बस उतना ही करना है. Whenever you are in doubt, right? Normal questions के लिए do not step forward, है ना? Normal questions के लिए if you step forward, ना, it creates confusion, obscurantism, right? Next, public savings. 10-20. Okay. Public savings have declined. Right? Till 2014-15. Till 2014-15. Whereas they have increased from 2015-16. Why? At least the economic survey says something. Because the public savings have increased because of the higher collection of union excise duties, especially from petroleum products. Right? Share of private corporate savings has also increased. Share of private corporate sector has also increased. Okay. Next, investment. I told you that investment rate, right, gross capital formation has been on the decline, right? So it has been on the decline. 2011 से compare करके, if you compare it to 2015-16, it has been on a decline, right? So at what rate was it? It was at 36% somewhere, right? It has come down to 33%, 31, 32, or was it?
33.3.
33.3% तक आ गया. Why such a decline? The reason is twin balance sheet problem. Twin balance sheet problem. Public investment has fluctuated. Public investment has fluctuated from 2011 to 2017-18 तक फ्लक्चुएट हुआ है, ऊपर नीचे हुआ है. प्राइवेट कॉर्पोरेशंस का इन्वेस्टमेंट्स जो है